Hi, I'm Andy Manston from Clockwork Orange, and you're listening to the House Culture Podcast.
House Culture.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the House Culture Podcast. I'm your host and managing editor at House Culture, Matt Rouse. Thanks for joining us, streaming or downloading, but most importantly, listening. You should know the drill by now, but if this is your first time tuning in, where have you been? We at House Culture are a collective of house music fans who have come together through their mutual love of the beat to celebrate the spirit of house music. You can get your daily fix of all things house culture on our Instagram feed at houseculturenet. But as you can see with this podcast, we've already built up a hefty back catalogue of interviews with iconic characters from the scene who have all been happy to sit down for a candid chat to tell us how this thing called house music has shaped their life. As you probably remember, in our first episode we chatted with Danny Clockwork from Clockwork Orange. And in this episode, which is the last one in this first series, we have come full circle as we now chat to Andy Manston, the other founding partner of Clockwork Orange and a DJ and producer in his own right. As you'll hear in this podcast, we'll discover how Andy got his first break as a DJ in Ibiza in 1989.
We went to Ibiza in 1989. We were kind of out there with all the lads having a laugh. We went to this bar in the West End. I got talking to the DJ. So I was sort of saying, I'm a DJ. And he went, I goes, do you fancy taking over for the night? Because I want to take a bird over. So I was like, you're right then. So literally he shot off and left me there with his records. And that was my first gig basically.
What it was like setting up that first Ibiza Clockwork Orange party at Es Paradis.
I had a little thing about it. He said, right, all right, you start in July. I literally came back, I think we got back on Sunday. I went into work Monday morning, I had my notice in. Obviously got my parents like, my dad, you've got to throw your life down the drain. You know, I'm like, I'm going, Dad, I don't care, I've got to do it. You know what I mean?
How he got himself discovered as an artist.
I bought some white labels. It'd been out about a week. I think it had my number on it. And I literally get a call, like, out the blue. Oh, hello. They're like, hi, it's the Ministry of Sandy. I'm like, all right. They're like, yeah, your track. I was like, right. And they're like, yeah, we want to sign it. And I was like, you what?
As well as the effect that the relaunch of Clockwork Orange has had on him.
I mean, if you'd have told me 7 years ago, like when I was playing down my local wine bar to 20 people, I'd be doing parties at Printworks and Amnesia, I would have laughed at you know?
So it's time to get the other side of that Clockwork Orange story and also learn about how the scene and music has changed over the past 25 years or so. Here to tell you all about that is Andy Manston.
House Culture.
Hi Andy, thank
Hi.
you so much for inviting us as House Culture into your home here.
Yes.
It's fantastic to be here. Obviously, you're one of the co-founders of the Clockwork Orange series of parties. Absolutely legendary on the scene. Obviously, our first episode with this House Culture podcast was with Danny Clockwork.
Yep.
We've come full circle.
Yep.
We're with you.
I know it's been a long while getting here, mate. We've had a few cancellations. But
No,
we've got
much
there in
appreciated.
the
Thanks
end.
for finding the time. And you're obviously a well-known, successful producer and DJ in your
Yep.
own right as well.
Yep.
We want to cover all of that. But before we even start, I suppose, where did you first discover kind of music and fall in love with kind of house music and repetitive beats?
I mean, I was heavily into music, like from a very early age, because my dad was, you know, always playing music back in the day. Then we're talking records on, you know, like on the you know, on his little turntable and that. So I've always been brought up with music from a very early age. Me personally, I kind of got into like a kind of, I remember being about 15 and a friend of mine gave me like this mix tape, and it was kind of all the old sort of soul-y stuff. I know it was like Luther Vandross. And then it kind of went from there really. And I mean, my main kind of, when I kind of really kind of got into my music was the early days of the hip hop.
Yeah.
When Dave Pearce used to do Radio London, and that really got me into the kind of, I mean, what are we talking about, like Biz Markie, Big Daddy Kane, you know, like obviously Public Enemy, things like that, JVC Force, and it kind of went from there really. And that was basically, you know, I had a good 2 or 3 years, I think, just listening to hip hop. I just passed my driving test, so I had a nice set of Pioneer stack speakers in the back of my Fiesta. So we were, I was just driving around and that, listening to all that. And the way I kind of got into house music was I had a little Amstrad stereo. And what I discovered was, or this is how I got into DJing, if I'm honest. I mean, this was kind of my first kind of mix. So what I discovered, if you pushed in the tape and the phono button at the same time, the tape would play with the deck. So what I did, I was just fiddling about, and I had a copy of, which is like one of my first records that you know, if you're a Christian, was Nitro Deluxe, Let's Get Brutal. And what I discovered was I could mix, I had that on the tape, recorded it onto the tape, and then I mixed Derek B, Bad Young Brother, and it was in time perfectly. No way. And that was literally my first mix. And it kind of got me just fiddling about with just tracks, and you know, obviously I can only play them if they're in time, because Technics did theoretically exist then, but I couldn't afford one. I was only I was 17, 18 years old, and that was how the kind of me getting into the kind of house sound started. So really. It's that light bulb moment where I mean, it was by pure, you know, I didn't really know anything about DJing, if I'm honest. I didn't want to be a DJ, but I was just curious to, I just used to muck about, and it literally kind of happened like that, you know.
So was that the moment you were like, actually I'm going to bin this tape deck, I need to get another record deck, do this properly?
I mean, not really. I mean, I think I was just like experimenting then, but I mean, obviously the explosion of the you know, the house scene in 88, 89, and I was going to clubs, and obviously that got me massively into the music. I then bought one Technics deck, because I worked for NatWest at the time, so I think I could only afford one, so I had an SL1210, and I have my other deck still, so it was obviously, but I could adjust the pitch on that one. Obviously was buying quite a lot of vinyl then, because we had all the like Tag and Quaff and all the like all the wicked shops up in because I worked at NatWest Piccadilly Circus, so I was like literally on the doorstep to Soho, so I had all the really cool record shops. Then so I got another deck, so then I had two. Bought a mixer from Tandy, I think was where I got it from. Probably no one even knows what these shops are anymore. But yeah, so and that was it really. So then I was sort of practicing and just kind of just a bedroom DJ at first.
And so the vinyl that you had, you said you're going into these record shops in Soho and things like that. Were you going in there and saying, I heard this track in a club, I want this, or were you just kind of like?
I mean, it was a little bit difficult then, because if I'm honest, you obviously you had no way of recording anything, so you either had to try and sing it to them, or you know, ask someone in, like, you know, not go up to the DJ and ask them, because it wasn't really like that then, but you know, just like obviously you get to know what songs are played, and if they were played on the radio. I mean, obviously the Pirates were going strong then, Centreforce and Sunrise and all them old, you know, all the old guys. So I mean, it was but really back in them days, record shopping was literally going in a shop, being given a pile of records and going on a deck and listening. And that was it, you know, and that was, I kind of miss that in a way. You know, my day would be going up London. I'm talking like after I've left my job, but like my days would be literally getting on the train, going up London and spending a whole day in a record shop, listening to stuff all day, and like hopefully finding some good stuff. But I mean, it was better in a way then, because obviously with the digital explosion, you can kind of get anything now. Anything's accessible. Shazam it, bang. If it's online, you got it, ain't you? But back in them days, obviously there was promos. People had records that, like, you know, other people couldn't get. So there's a little bit more kind of exclusivity on the sets and that. And I mean, I remember getting a copy of 40 Miles Congress, and it was on white label. I think they had 20 copies in the shop. I got one, and then there was none about for ages, and I had one, and it was like, you know, and that's the thing, like, you know, but now it's only been put on YouTube. You can rip it off of YouTube if you want it. So it's just easy to get anything these days.
So accessible. It's
hard now. You got to like look for them tunes. You got to dig out the.
You got to have your secret weapons, I suppose, haven't you? And so you were kind of a bedroom DJ. Where were you playing out before you started putting on events? What came first?
I got a slot on a pirate radio station, so that's kind of how it all really started for me. A friend of mine was DJing on there, and I kind of just said, could I come on and have a go with him, really? And I did it for a while, and I think I got my own show. I mean, it was very, very dodgy back then. I mean, it was like in a really...
Where was it?
It was just behind the back of... Leighton swimming bars. There was a couple of estates over there, but it was like taking your life into your own hands going in there. It was really like in a like an old like a crack house basically,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, with a couple of decks on crates, and you always had the fear of the old DTS. They could come in at any time and confiscate everything and take your records. And I mean, they used to pull the antennas off the roofs, and it was carnage, you know. I mean, it kind of got me into playing, and obviously it was kind of fun because you had the old mobiles back then. I think it was even a pager. I think it was even before mobiles. It was a pager. Yeah. And the messages used to come through. Used to read them out. And then I got.
So there was a real sense that you were actually there was an audience out there that were listening.
But I wasn't really DJing. I mean, I was doing that, but I wasn't really getting gigs then. But my kind of, I wouldn't call it my break, but my first kind of gig was we and my mates, we went to Ibiza in 1989, and we were kind of out there. We were just like, I mean, God, I was 19 years old, young kid, out with all the lads having a laugh and that. And then we went to this place called Sergeant Pepper's, which is a bar in the West End, and we were kind of in there just having a laugh. And I got talking to the DJ, and in a nutshell, he was like going to me. So I was like saying, I'm a DJ, and he went, I goes, do you fancy taking over for the night? Because I want to take a bird home and shag her. So I was like, yeah, all right then. So literally he shot off and left me there with his records, and that was my first gig basically. So I played all night. I mean, it's probably till about 3 a.m. It wasn't even that late then. Yeah, and that was it really. So the guy that I used to do the radio with, we kind of teamed up and started this act called the Atomic Crew.
Of course.
Really cool. And then we just basically hounded everyone with mixtapes, and then I kind of we started picking up a few gigs. I mean, it literally was driving everyone mad, ringing them up all the time. And I mean, I've done a couple of rain dances, I think. God, you know, I mean, like warehouses stuff, just all over really. I mean, I can't really remember the venues, but then it was a very, very industrial. I mean, a lot of places then, I mean, they were kind of legal, but they were just literally in warehouses. And I mean, it was good fun. 90, what are we talking, 91? I mean, I was kind of really into all the old Belgian beats, like all the old R&S stuff, and that was kind of what I was really playing. Now we're talking 92. The music was obviously changing then, you know. It was kind of going on I mean, you had like that Belgian beats, and then obviously the kind of hardcore stuff was kicking in with the Rat Pack and what those guys were doing. Yeah. But I was kind of like really into going to Naked Lunch and Double Bubble at the Gas. Yeah. And I love that kind of housey vibe. And I kind of changed my style then, went down that route. And then it's just a mate of mine said, like, you should try and do a party. And I was like, well, yeah, maybe. You know, I mean, I kind of not really ever thought about it. And he's like let's just, so me and a friend of mine just did it was actually a local gig in Chigwell, you know, the rugby, is it Manor Rugby Club? We used to have a hall there, and we did a party for 200 people, and that was kind of it. And I thought, oh well, I'm Johnny Big Bollocks now, so I'm going to try something. So I booked the Paddocks. This was pre-Clockwork, and funny enough, because we're doing this, I was just having a little look, because on the night that we did it, it was the night that the Bishopsgate bomb went off. So literally, I remember pulling up at the venue. So I had a really good lineup. I had like Simon Hansen, Lawrence Nelson. It was a decent lineup. Yeah. A few other guys, and literally we pulled up outside the club, and we had this massive bang, and the mate that was in the car with me used to be in the army, and he went to me, that was a bomb. And I'm like, shut up, man, you're talking about a fucking bomb, you know what I mean? And literally we were sitting there, within 10 minutes of being out of the car, about 1,000 police cars, fire engines, and
bloody hell.
Literally they put a ring of steel around the whole of London, and no one could get to the party. So there's about 20 people in there, so it was an absolute disaster. So that was my kind of...
That was your first party?
Well, my first kind of real taste of promotion.
Wow.
So it was, well,
the only way's up.
Well, that's it, you know. I mean, obviously it was very, very disheartening. I mean, to be fair to like the guys, they kind of well, they couldn't have got paid anyway because I didn't have any money to pay them. But they were you know, they were okay. I mean, obviously they were pissed off, but look, you know, force majeure and all that.
Well, yeah, what can you do?
Know? Yeah, so that was kind of 92 that happened, and then I met Danny.
Yeah. So
we kind of met by chance, really. So Danny used to go to Naked Lunch. I was at Naked Lunch, and Michael, my friend, who I used to go clubbing with, just said, "Oh, you're not going to believe this. This guy's just literally run up to me and give me a bag of something and said, I've got to go. The security's about to throw me out." So they were chasing him around the club. So he's like, "Meet me at Hollywood's and give them back to me." So we kind of anyway, Danny got thrown out, got caught, got thrown out. So we arranged to meet him at Hollywood's the following Thursday, and my first meeting of Danny was walking into Hollywood's in Romford, and he went, "All right, mate, yes." I'm like, "Who are you?" So I'm like, "I'm Andy." So he's like, "All right." He went to me, "Do you want a drink?" So I'm like, "Yeah, all right then." So he literally leant over the bar, picked up a bottle of whiskey, gave it to me. Next thing, about 8 bouncers just literally flew into us, and we were both just standing outside, like And that was kind of how I met him. And then we kind of hanged out a little bit with him. And then like that was when my mates were kind of going to me, we should do a party, you know. And I was like, I'm not sure, you know, I've done one before and it went really bad. And I was a little bit like, you know, kind of thing. And so it was me, Michael, Munn, a friend of mine, another guy called Andy Blumpson. So us three were kind of like, let's do a party. And I was like, well, look, we really need someone involved in this who knows everyone. And I'm like, well, it's got to be that geezer Danny, innit? He knows everyone, you know what I mean? He's like man about town. And so we kind of said to him, do you want to do it? And again, he was a little bit like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And I said, well, look, come on, let's have a go at it. Yeah, so we kind of decided we was going to do a night. We had no idea what we were going to call it. We the original name we actually came up with was called Baby Love, and we were like, it was like, oh my god. So he's like, let's go up London and we'll go and just try and get some ideas. So we were going in the old cinematographic shops, looking at all these different like stills from films and stuff like that. And then we kind of was just standing there and literally we pulled out the picture of it's a glass with a set of false teeth in it with Alex's bowler hat behind it.
Yeah.
And we all just looked at each other and went, Clockwork Orange. And that was literally how we came up with a name. I mean, obviously at the start we did used to use quite a lot of the stills and the imagery from the film.
Yeah.
Because they did look pretty cool. I mean, obviously it's got a pretty evil undertones of the film and that, but you know, it was never kind of. I know some people said, "No, I'm not going to that." I mean, some DJs I won't mention, but refused to play for us for a few years because of the name and they associated with the film. We had a few DJs that wouldn't DJ for us. Yeah, so we got the Paddocks again. So I went back to the Paddocks.
So when was that? Was that 93?
That was in 93, 23rd of January.
Yeah.
1993 was the first party.
Yeah. So who was playing at that? Who's on the list?
God, we had Lisa Loud. Darren Emerson was on the flyer, but I don't think he actually did it. Tony Grimley. I mean, to be fair, we didn't really... Brandon did it, Brandon Block.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have a massive lineup because it wasn't really a massive party. It was kind of just a friends thing. And we rallied up. I mean, probably, if I'm honest, there probably was more than 400 or 500 people in there. I mean, not a bad start for a first promotion, but it was obviously a good night. And that was that. So we did another one there couple of months later, which again I think we had Rockin' Diesel and Kevin Hurry and Kevin Swain, DLP.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
And were you DJing as well?
Yeah, I was always DJing.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny didn't used to DJ then.
No.
I mean, Danny kind of was a late bloomer. So.
Can you remember what kind of music you were playing? Is there anything that stands out?
A song that I can remember a song I played at the first ever Clockwork, which was a song by Latour called Blue. And it was do you know that song?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
it was
in
the
Instinct, isn't it?
The Sharon Stone film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I still remember that down.
So good.
I've got it I mean, I've got my vinyls all put away, but I've still got it all.
Yeah.
Outrage drives me crazy.
Yeah. Amazing.
But yeah, I mean, like, you know, obviously you go through so much music. There's still the big ones that you kind of and then so then we moved on to, I think we did a small little basically club called Chinichita, which was a club round the back of Debenhams, like round the back of there, and it had a train in it. I always remember it had a train in the venue. It was a really, really quirky little venue, and that was kind of when Danny's like we need to go to Ibiza, and I'm like, well, I was still working at Nat West, and Danny had basically lived in Ibiza. He was like going out there every summer, spending the summer there, you know, doing what he does, and just like, you know, being a complete lunatic and whatever. And that was kind of so he was like, yeah, we need to go to Ibiza and do parties. I'm like, yeah, but I've got a job, and he's like, yeah, fuck that, just leave. And I'm like, yeah, but come on, mate, you know what I mean? So I said, well, look, let me. So I knew Brandon then, because obviously Brandon had played for us a couple of times. So I said, let me have a chat with Brandon. So I called up Brandon and said, look, we're thinking of going to Ibiza. Anyone you could maybe recommend us to? Like, he said, we want to do nights out. And he said, well, why don't you go and see Paradis? So we were like, yeah, all right then. So he arranged for us to deal with at the time was she was Miss Bista at the time, or Claire, who's now Clara da Costa. So I kind of sent her she's still got the fax that I sent her from Nat West.
The fax.
Yeah, hi, we'd like to come and do parties at your club. So she basically said, well, come out and meet me, and then come and meet Pepe, the owner. Let's see if we can sort something out. So we flew out there, I think on a Tuesday or something. I mean, it was like early May. I mean, it was so different. And I remember sitting down at Cafe de Mar. Mambo's didn't even exist then.
Yeah.
And it was literally me and Danny, and it was dead. You know, not a soul about, like a ghost town compared to what it's like now. And then so we met her down there, had a coffee or a beer, or whatever. I can't remember. I think it was like mid-afternoon. And then she's like, right, okay, we'll go and meet Pepe tomorrow. So we went into to Paradis, sat down with Pepe, and he's like, what do you do? So we're like, well, we do da-da-da-da-da. You know, we've got this, we've got that. And he was like, okay, so what are you going to do, what you're going to bring to Es Paradis. So we was like, well, we're going to bring English DJs over, because they'd never kind of really had that there before.
Yeah.
They had nights in there that like Black and White, which Tommy Mac used to run, but they didn't really bring guest DJs in. So we were like, well, we're going to bring in like, big English DJs. That's our plan. He was like, all right. So literally had a little thing about it. He said, right, all right, you start in July. And that was it. So I literally came back. I think we got back on Sunday. I went into work Monday morning. I had my notice in. Obviously got my parents like, my dad, you got thrown your life down the drain. I'm like, I'm going, Dad. I don't care. I got to do it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, quick as that. It was
literally, I got back middle of May, handed in my notice, worked a month, and then went to Ibiza.
So when you went out there, you worked in the bank. When you came back, you were a club promoter, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. I mean, did you feel when you were out there at that time, kind of negotiating those first kind of events, did you feel like you were on the blag a bit still, or were you like, I mean,
we had
here?
contacts with all the DJs, so not really. I mean, to be fair, it was easy, because to be fair, no one was really coming to Ibiza then. I mean, obviously you had the likes of Oki, like, the guys that would Coxie was out there doing, he was actually doing the Star Cafe, which was the club across the road from Es Paradis. So DJs were out there, but none of our DJs had been there. I don't think Judge was even been to Ibiza. I mean, he'd been to Ibiza. I'm pretty sure the first gig he ever did was, we had John Digweed, first ever gig he's ever played in Ibiza was for Clockwork.
That's nuts.
So, I'd like, that year we had some amazing DJs, really, that we pulled those guys, but everyone was like up for it, because it was so different then. So it wasn't, it was run like a circus, to be honest with you, like the first few years. We lived in a shithole in San Antonio. I still remember the story. We got kicked out of our apartment because we basically made too much noise or done something. And we had John Digweed staying with us. And literally, the day we got kicked out, I'll never forget this. We're sitting in the middle of the square with all our bags, and we ain't got nowhere to stay with John Digweed. It's like, you can't make it up, really. So I remember my mate going to Danny, what the fuck are we going to do? He's like, we've got nowhere to stay. Dan's like, listen, don't worry about it, I'll sort something out. And like we've like one of the biggest DJs, not like, obviously he was up and coming then, but
yeah.
So it was just literally at that time, boys on holiday, because we were just on holiday, running a club. And I don't even know what the numbers were like. It wasn't packed in there. It was probably about 400 or 500 people, but we used to think it was rammed because we didn't know any different. And so that was that.
What was that? Sorry, what was that first year? What year was that?
94. And we started in 93. Did some parties, and so obviously we did a. I think the season then was literally, we started about mid-July, and I think we ended late August. It was like we did 7 or 8 weeks. It wasn't we didn't do a long season, but we did the season. We done well, and then I remember coming back from Ibiza. We had a party at Maximus in September, and we literally were getting the club ready, blah 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 blah. We walked upstairs at 10 o'clock, opened the doors, and there was a queue down the street. It was just like, wow. What's going on here? And that was kind of the change. We'd gone from kind of being a whatever to all of a sudden, obviously the people that had been to Ibiza liked it, and like, oh look, these guys got a party on in London. And that was it then, really. So we kind of And
was it an audience, the London audience for that reunion stuff, or was it people that were kind of living in London?
It's very difficult to gauge where they are from, because it's easy these days with social media, but them days it was, the promotion then was stand outside a club till 6 o'clock in the morning giving out flyers, and put flyers in envelopes and lick 6,000 stamps. And that's as crude as it sounds. We used to spend 3 or 4 days packing envelopes. I'll tell you one really funny story. So once we were supposed to be, I was doing, so I said to Danny, right, you do ministry, I'm going to do gardening club, and So I said, you do that one. So I'm standing outside gardening club giving out flyers, and he comes out of his nut out of the club. I'm flying. So I'm like, Dan, what the fuck? You're supposed to be at ministry. He's like, oh, I forgot. You know what I mean? So it was fun then, because we used to go out, literally, we'd come out of Hollywood. We used to go to Hollywood every Friday, like it was our kind of religion to go there. And then we literally come out of there at 2 o'clock in the morning. We used to go and, so we had like the A4, A5 flyers, and we used to go and nick all the gloves from the garages, what you put, because we found that the flyers fitted in the gloves. We used to go and nick all the gloves from all the local garages, put the flyers in just in case it rained, and then put them all under the windscreen wipers in like ministry, and that was our Friday night. So we'd literally drive around London Friday night till about 7 in the morning, go to Brick Lane, get a bagel, and then go home. And that was like, we did that literally for years. For years, probably 4 or 5 years, just doing that same ritual every Friday, and then going and doing a few clubs, and then obviously Flying Squad started, so it made our lives a lot easier because they took control of doing the packs and that, so we didn't have to stand outside. So 94, 95, we then got in the cross.
Yeah.
So someone said, oh, it's this wicked little club.
Oh, I used to love that place.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's our home, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's where we done all our amazing, I mean, look, we've done some amazing parties, but that was where it kind of really kicks in. And then it's the same thing. Literally, someone this is wicked club in King's Cross, and literally done the same. We just bowled up there one night, walked in there. It was a Friday night, and we're like, hello, we won Clockwork Orange. They're like, who? Clockwork what? And we're like, oh, we do parties. And they're like, oh, where have you done parties? And we're like, so we've done a couple of the paddocks. So we literally went out the back, met Jamie, who was the manager, and he was like, oh, this is Billy Riley, the owner. And we were like, just going, yeah, we're doing really cool parties, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, I'll give you a date. I mean, this was well before they even had probably regular nights in there. It only just opened. So we got the opportunity to do that, and we had John Digweed gameplay that, and it was just, I mean, that was kind of when it was kind of becoming, we were pulling in some really good DJs, and it just went mad. I mean, we were doing very, very well there, and then the big game changer, which was when it went like kind of stratospheric, was... So 96, we were at S Paradis, and we got basically approached to do Ibiza Uncovered. So that kind of obviously was running through. That started around June. I remember them filming in Ibiza. So obviously we was on that. We were a pretty big part of it, and we were doing. I think we were averaging 1,200 whatever ever a night. Like doing okay, decent parties, really good vibe. And I mean, it was always good Clockwork. And then obviously Ibiza Uncovered coming out. I remember us all going to a bar and literally watching the first episode, and then we were on it, and literally from the moment that came on and Clockwork was on it, this was like, I don't think it was aired till late August. First week of September we had 3,500 people in there or something like that. It literally just went ballistic. That was it then. That was the kind of that was the changing point. Yeah.
So I mean, it's almost like free advertising for this great party across like a big time TV
and obviously
show.
Danny kind of was obviously funny and like kind of come across as the kind of cheeky Essex chappy. So it kind of, that was kind of it really, and that was then when we kind of really it stepped up into the big league. So that was 96.
Have you watched any of that Ibiza?
I kind of watch it, but I mean, I'm not even. The funny thing was, it was actually supposed to be me that was supposed to be on it, but I had a bit of a heavy night the night before. And if you look really closely, you can kind of see me lying on a sunbed, like rolling around, and they're like, well, he can't film, so they're like, oh, he's going to have to do it. So Danny got the job, basically. It was like, so, I mean, we should have really done it together, but because he obviously did the initial filming, there's not much point in me jumping in and going, hello, So, no, listen, it was good for us. I mean, obviously, it didn't get great press because they kind of did make everyone look like, I mean, the problem is with them things, they sell by the kind of shock factor, and that's the thing, isn't it? People don't want to see normal stuff, they want to see outrageous stuff, and that unfortunately was what Ibiza Uncovered was. So that's and then we kind of entered into the 97, 98, where we were then doing I mean, obviously it exploded by then. We were doing Cannon Palace, Hollywood's and Ron for like really big parties, I'm talking like 2,000, 3,000 parties, loads and loads of tour dates, and then it was obviously flying. We were doing really well. I mean, obviously you've spoke to Danny, Danny's implosion. So that was the problem. Danny, obviously, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong, we was all as bad as each other, but we were living like rock stars and living the life of rock stars, and losing track of what we really should have been doing. I mean, we were only young. I was 23 when I started Clockwork. I mean, we were 28, 29 then. We were getting old, but we still were living like complete lunatics. And Danny was obviously like losing the plot and getting gradually worse and worse. And then obviously the main thing that, like, this is the Goodfellas moment now when it goes. And then like 99, we got to Ibiza, and basically we were like kind of told, we need to go to court. What have we got to go to court for? They're like, well, you're not allowed to use your name. We're like, what? Yeah, someone in Benidorm owns Clockwork Orange, and you're not allowed to use it. We're like, what was it? I don't know. So we was just like, we don't understand it. So we got all these court papers. So we went to court, and in a nutshell, this guy had, I mean, this was a massive thing back in the day if you was around everyone. I mean, he'd literally trademarked Clockwork Orange, Miss Money Pennies, Gate Crasher, Cream, Manumission, and he'd literally taken a copy of Mixmag, photocopied our logo, and trademarked it.
No way.
And we would like literally in court going, but we own it. And the judge is like, I know, but you can't use it. And it was literally like, if you use it, the police will come. If we see any advertising with it on, any banners in the club, the police will come and stop you. So we literally were like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We've lost our name.
No way.
And a couple of I don't know the full extent, but it was ported out. Well, I mean, I know what he wanted us to pay him 30 grand a season to use it, and we were like, fuck off. But I know a couple of the other promoters got theirs back. I don't know what they did, but there was court cases going on, and it was an absolute mess. And to be honest, it totally ruined us. Yeah, because we had to change the name. We had to call it the Orange Summer of Love. We had to just and the thing was, people didn't know. As stupid as it sounds, people didn't come because they didn't think it was Clockwork. Yeah, and our numbers just dwindled. So we were kind of in 2000. I mean, Danny was completely off the rails. Yeah, he was kind of just like, he lost the plot out there. He was obviously not bang on it, and he was just he was really out of control. I mean, drinking a lot and just and he was losing interest in it. You know, he really was. I mean,
did you see that as like his mate? Were you seeing it happen and being like, I need to kind of?
Not really, if I'm honest. I mean, we just carried on doing it. But what we lost track of is that we were still doing what we do. But I mean, we were losing DJs because DJs didn't want to play for us because we were so mental. Yeah. I mean, a couple of things happened out there, and like a few DJs said, I don't want to play for you guys no more. So that was happening. We had the garage music coming in, so that was affecting it because the scene was changing. Yeah. And I literally was, I was DJing. I mean, I was quite lucky because I was obviously quite a big DJ back in them days anyway, and I was doing productions. So I had my stuff, like I had like my big tracks, like my Positiva stuff. So I was making good money out of my music. So I wasn't in the same situation as Danny because Danny was solely reliant on Clockwork. Yeah. Whereas I kind of had, I was DJing regularly, and obviously I had good money coming in from remixing, and I was doing really well out of the music then because we had a really, really good thing going. My Julian Napolitano was my studio partner. But yeah, so I just kept, and literally, yes, the Clockwork was kind of dying a death. The progressive music was coming in. It was just changing massively, and we kind of didn't really move with the times. If I'm honest, I didn't want to move with the times because I hated garage and I didn't really like progressive music, so it was kind of like it wasn't really going anywhere for me. I mean, I remember DJing like about 2002. I mean, I think Clockwork was pretty much on its arse then. And I remember I was playing in Malta, about 3,000, 4,000 people, and I'm playing all this music. I'm like, I fucking hate this. I just wasn't enjoying it. I just didn't like the music. I'm playing stuff I don't really like. And unfortunately, I have to play music and make music I like. I can't just do it for the sake of it, like be a gun for hire. It's not what I do, Yeah. I have to be into what I'm playing and making,
Yeah, it's good to have that passion and be that
principle.
I
mean, you have to be that. I mean, I can't sit in a studio and make something that I'm not enjoying making. It's just not me.
No, I mean, we did a podcast interview with Terry Farley, and he was like, he summed it up really well in saying that, listening to a track and thinking, oh, that'll really work. It might really work, but if you don't like it, why play it?
I mean, I've done some shocking remixes. We was talking about the other day. We got offered a massive amount of money to do 2 Unlimited, and it was the worst song you've ever heard. And you laugh, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure we can make it work. And it was like, I mean, I wouldn't even want to hear what it sounds like now. And then so then Clockwork kind of.
So what was the moment where you're like, actually, we're stopping this now? Let's wind it.
Right. So we didn't really. So Danny basically had gone completely like schizo, mad, lost the plot, and then we kind of stopped doing S Parody. We kind of got into a partnership with Danny Newman from Turnmills. So we started doing a night called Together, which is still going now at Amnesia. So I kind of started that night. Me and Danny come up with that concept together. And obviously Clockwork was dying a bit, so we were kind of like working with Danny and doing joint, because we still had a good following, but obviously we were shot to bits. And but Danny basically just come to me one day and said, I don't want to be in it no more, I want out. And I'm like, all right. So he's like, I don't want to do it no more. So it's like, okay, fine. So he decided he was going to not do it. And I kind of tried to carry it on to an extent. I mean, we did a few joint ventures at Eden, I think 2002. It was Clockwork and Gallery, and Danny wasn't involved in that. But, I mean, it's very, very strange that never really ever worked unless it's me and him together. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But the magic's us together. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's, I mean, like, Danny's an amazing promoter. He does what he does. He's just, mind blowing, like the way he writes, and he's just bloody good at it. I mean, I'm a little bit more backseat. I let him take control of the promotion, but Danny just is amazing at whipping up a storm. And I mean, obviously,
he's that man.
Social media didn't even exist then, but what I'm saying is Danny was always the front man, kind of the party man. I was a little bit more reserved in the back, and yeah, but you know, so Danny left, and it kind of just, it rolled on a little bit for a few years. I can't even remember, because it was kind of dark times. And I mean, my personal experience was like, I'd gone from DJing all over the world to like basically finding, like, I was like, say I've got 4 residencies, and then all of a sudden, then 2 nights are shut down because the music's, no one wants to go no more, so I want to go to garage nights. And I literally gone from basically having like, you know, 20 gigs a month to like 2, and I'm like, I ain't got enough money to pay my mortgage. You know what I mean? It was literally like, it was that quick as well. It wasn't like overnight, but it was like, it happened that quickly. And it was literally, I was looking, going like, well, that's gone now, that's gone, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? You know what I mean? I was like starting to look ahead, and then there was like barren months, and I'm like thinking,
what was the solution?
Get a job. Basically, that was it. Danny went to, he started off as a labourer, which basically is what I did. So he started off as a labourer for a dry lining company, and this was obviously around the time when he was like going clean. Yeah. So Danny obviously had his, he had his breakdown, hit rock bottom, and then started going to AA, and obviously, you know, he was in the program. But so he was obviously off everything, you know, totally clean. And then, you know, Danny just worked his way up to, like, you know, supervisor, and similar to what I did really. So I rung my mate up and said, you got any work? He was like, yeah, you come and help me like carry some planks about and stuff like that. And literally I started off as a labourer. Yeah. So he ran a company that did all carpentry work. And so I went and kind of worked with him for a bit, just like helping out, moving stuff about. And then he kind of said, oh, right, can you put some screws in? And I'm like, well, I can do this. So he's like, we'll buy a few tools. And then I kind of worked my way, got trained up with the guys and that. And then I became a fitter, so I was doing all the carpentry stuff, and then I went out on price and did that for a while, and then eventually I kind of was just like running their jobs for them with 15 blokes. I'm like, well, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm kind of on a price, which is like, you know, you get money for how much work you do. And I was like, well, if I'm running jobs and running blokes, I might as well get into management. So that was kind of what I did. I kind of, I just basically put out there, I see a job going for an assistant site manager. I went for that, got it. And then they literally trained me up. So I did that from, I think I started doing the site management in 2007. I mean, I was still doing a little bit of DJing because I've always DJ'd. Yeah. I mean, they weren't great gigs. I used to play at my local wine bar, but listen, I love DJing. I'll play to 5 people in the toilet. It don't bother me if they're having a good time. I really don't care. And you know, I've always kind of tried to keep in the DJing. I mean, obviously it's difficult when you're not doing anything, but just local gigs and stuff like that, really. So that was so that was from 2007. So obviously just lived a normal life, done a normal job, went to work every day, didn't make music, stopped that kind of because obviously I'd lost my mojo really, and kept in touch with Danny. I mean, didn't see him as much as we should have done really, but you know what it's like, life goes on, we're all kind of doing our stuff. And then what kind of happened, we started going camping. Danny just said, should we go camping? So we started doing the camping, and all the boys, we all used to meet up and go over Debden, and there's a big campfield over there, could have a fire and that. And then Danny just started, like, Facebook was there and we was all on it, and then he just all of a sudden just started putting up all these old pictures from Ibiza. So it was just getting so much sort of like comments and feedback. He'd never wanted to do a party, Danny, because obviously he was in recovery, and I think he was scared of what would happen if he got put back in that environment. No, I get that, you know what I mean. And then it was just like more, and then he put another like 100 pictures up from 94 to 98, and it was just like, man, you know, just like reliving all these great times we'd had. And then I just rang him up one day. I was like, I said, do you fancy it? I mean, fancy what? I said, do you fancy just doing a little reunion? And he's like, do you know what I'd do? So I was like, what should we do then? He went, I don't know. He said, let's start really small, because he said no one will probably come. So we were like, all right. So we said, well, let's get McQueen's, because like obviously we might be able to get them because it's a small venue, and I think we knew someone there. So we kind of went in there and went like, oh yeah, we're, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, Clockwork, you know. So I said, yeah, we just want to do a little reunion really. We're not too sure how many people are going to come, because obviously we haven't done it for like 10 years or 11 years, and literally we were like, right, okay, we got the venue. I mean, it was only literally me, Danny was doing DJing, and of course Brandon, Alex, and a few of the Keithy Mack and a few of the residents. And I'm like, oh god, so we were like, right, it's only small, 400-500. He said, look, worst case if we get a couple of hundred, you know, we'll whatever, we'll see how it goes. So I literally put the tickets on, and it sold out in a day. And we were like, what? It was just like, what? You know, it's like, what's going on here kind of thing. And yeah, so we'd kind of just hit on this middle age, I wouldn't call it crisis, but basically, you know, like we kind of hit on this crux of people that have obviously settled down now, got kids, got disposable income and still want to go out and party. And literally...
The kids are a bit older now.
Yeah, and I mean, literally, most of those people hadn't been out for like 10, 12 years. That was it. That was the start of it, you know. I mean, literally, when we started Clockwork originally, there was hardly anything going. I mean, there was nothing like that. Retro music, you know, playing old school. And yeah, we just kind of right place, right time, I suppose. And but it was, oh my God, you know, I'm out again.
Yeah.
And I always remember people coming up to me when we kind of been doing it for about a year, and like girls coming up to me going like, I never ever thought, like I'm talking like 45-year-old women here, I never ever thought I would be in a nightclub again doing this, and thank you so much. And that was the thing, you know, you couldn't walk into, you know, an abode or one of them kind of nights at my age. You look like, you know, people like, who's he? Like, he's old Bill. You know, you look like, you know, it's just, you just look out of place. And that's the thing, that's the beauty of Clockwork. It's kind of got that old Ibiza kind of, you know, like feel, because it's like, you know, in Ibiza, age, colour, creed, race, it doesn't matter. 17, 18-year-olds with 50-year-olds, it's just what Ibiza is. Everyone together, having a good time. Basically, that's what Clockwork is.
Yeah.
You know, no discrimination. We don't care who comes.
Yeah.
As long as they come and enjoy themselves.
Absolutely. And from that first party, that first kind of reunion party,
yeah,
we're like, shit, we've got to go back to Ibiza now.
No. So we did it, and we were obviously still working and doing our jobs. We didn't have another party for a year, like for a whole year. And we were like, should we do another one? And Dan's like, oh, you know, we said, well, let's do one in like another in a year. So then we got Fire and Lightbox, and I was like, right, obviously it was big, but we kind of knew the people were there because obviously the response we had from the first one. But again, same thing. So big venue, 15, 1800, I don't know what holds in there, I can't remember now. But and the same thing, but like on sale, sold out. Just like, wow, you know. And again, amazing party, proper nightclub now, because McQueen's is kind of a bit of a like a wine bar-y vibe with you know, like a VIP kind of thing. This was a full-on, what's it called, Spit and Sawdust venue. Got a lot of gay nights in there, low ceilings, like the Cross basically, like massive sound system. And it was like literally, that's what I said, Danny, look, if we're going to do another one, I want it in a proper nightclub. I don't want to be doing no bars. Did it, amazing. And then I don't even think, right, so let's think. So probably that summer was when we first went to Ibiza. And that was when I was trying to talk Danny into doing another party, and he wouldn't have it. So I'm like, Dan, let's do another one in September. He's like, no, we'll ruin the formula. I remember him saying it to me. I'm like, what formula? I said, like, it's just whatever we do. So we were like, we got Area, which is the other Fire and Lightbox club, which is down the road. So I think that was so we flew out to Ibiza probably around May again to try and tap a few people up. Yeah, so we went, I mean, obviously that's Paradise straight away. Yeah. You know, like Pepe was like,
yeah. Just rewind to that, like, you guys, you're on the flight, you're flying out to Ibiza to reignite Clockwork Orange. Like, what was that feeling?
I mean, if I'm honest, for me, not a lot, because I've had a place in Ibiza 15 years, so I go there all the time. Yeah. So I continually went to Ibiza every year.
Yeah.
Since Clockwork's finished, I've been going to Ibiza. You know, I've always, because I love Ibiza, and like I said, I bought a place out there, so I've kind of always been going there. Yeah. Even when Clockwork wasn't running, I was still on the island.
Yeah, but the two of you together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, it's just look. It's like everyone says this kind of like, you know, but you know, it's when you're doing these things, you just get on with it and do it. I mean, I can't really remember thinking, I'm probably like excited, you know, just to be with Danny and going back out there. We did obviously the meeting with Pepe straight away. Yeah, of course, guys, welcome back. And then we kind of were like, well, we need to do something on the Sunday. So we went, the year before I'd been out there and I'd been to Jason Ball, who owns Sands, who's obviously was SVive, and obviously he's been a very good friend of mine for many, many years. So he was like, why don't you do a beach party? So I was like, well, what do you mean a beach party? He went, well, like what Carl Cox did. I'm like, where? He went, Sands. I was like, yeah, but will it be any good? He's like, yeah, we'll see how it goes, won't we? So we were kind of like, well, I said, all right. And so I said, we had a meeting with Dan. We went down there and met Jason and had a meet with him. So this was when, anyway, he went, oh, guys, I've had a night this year. I've had to move because Schweier had bought, I think it was Hard Rock where the old Sands used to be. Yeah. And they want to change it to something else. So I've been moved down the road a bit. So I'm like, oh, where are you then? He went, well, just down by Nassau. So we're like, oh, okay. So he's like, right. He said, it's quite cool though. So we went in there. I was like, yeah, it's all right. He said, listen, don't worry, we'll put a sound system in, we'll see how it goes. So we're like, okay. So we kind of like said, right, we're doing secret beach party, because obviously the laws are a little bit,
Yeah.
Anyway, so we called it Shush and put a little. I mean, I don't even think we advertised where. I mean, we obviously put where it was, kept it really quiet, and like obviously as parody, the first one was really really good. We had a pre-party at Mambo's, and then the beach was just. I mean, the first beach wasn't even really that busy. It was wicked, and it was probably about 1,000 people, or maybe not even that many. I think the first beach we had like 12 beds. The last one we done we had 200. I mean, it was bonkers, but it was amazing, and it was the vibe was like nothing I'd ever experienced in Ibiza. You're on a beach, you're with your friends, everyone knows everyone, and it was just pretty mind blowing, really. And I was like to Danny, how the fuck are we ever going to beat this? I said, it's just amazing. He's like, well, we just have to see, won't we? And then so first year in Ibiza, then obviously we went back to Cannon Coco. I mean, God, I can't remember the parties, mate. I mean, so we were like, I mean, obviously, kind of, we struggled. I mean, Clockwork Orange, when it came back, we used to struggle to get in venues, because everyone was like, well, it's that old school night full of old people. But the thing was, my main bargaining tool, which was basically how I got into 338, Printworks, and all the big clubs that I've managed to get in, has been basically bar spend, because our crowd drinks so much, and word got about with all these club owners, well, if you have these boys in, you'll take 3 times as much as you do on a normal night. And that was basically how I used to go into these venues, is to go in and say, right, I'll treble your bar spend. This is what I took at this club. And they're like, you what? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, how many people? I'm like, 1,500. They're like, what? They're like, what? Like £50 a head and all? And I'm like, yeah, and that was kind of, that was how I used to get my foot in the door. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And that was, I mean, like with Printworks, literally I sold them this dream of them making fortunes on their bars, and literally like what, because I said, look, our crowd drink like fish. They're an older crowd, they've got loads of disposable income. I said, but you will make a lot more money out of having my night than you will out of having one of your young techie nights, because they always drink water. And they were like, all right, let's give it a go then, So I mean, like obviously Ibiza had been building. We was bubbling along, and we was doing, we were doing like, we did 338, we did Building 6. We did a couple at Coco, and the way, so I mean the real change was Printworks, because obviously we'd done parties for 2,000 whatever, 3,000 whatever the venues were, I don't really know. The Printworks was a big jump up, and I spent a lot of time trying to get Printworks. I mean, I worked bloody hard to get that. I mean, I had to like sell my soul, really. Not sell my soul, it was a tough process, because at the end of the day, it's Printworks. They've got the biggest, bestest DJs in the country. Why do they want an old school night that plays classics? And that was kind of like so I met with Gareth, the MD, and like I spent ages trying to get to him, and I couldn't get to the right person. And then a friend of mine who runs Peppermint, which is he put me in touch with Gareth, and then I kind of spoke to him, and we were like, and I was like, started selling him the kind of what we do, and I was like, would you do VIP tables? He's like, no, what are they? I was like, I'll sell you 100 VIP tables, mate. And he was like, what in advance? And I'm like, yeah. I said, people want to sit down and have a drink at like their table, and it was just a bit alien to him all. But we got a date, and sort of luckily we sold it out. So, and that was when we kind of thought, hello. But it's obviously Clockwork's been building over the years, and more people are coming, and we're getting a more diverse crowd now. Youngsters are coming, and it is becoming a big snowball. That's going down a hill, So and then so the festival. So we kind of got approached by Chelmsford. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, probably about 3 years ago now. And Danny said, come down, have a look at this gaffer. He's like, and I walked in there, and I'm like, we're not ready for this yet, mate. What I mean? As much as I think it's a brilliant venue, we can't do this. So that was kind of how we got introduced to him, and then we did the party at 338, and we had a few problems in there, like length of drinks times and stuff, and just general kind of stuff. And I said, do you know what? Basically, the only way that I can get anything right is if I do it myself. As mad as it sounds, if I can control everything, I can make sure that there's enough bar staff, the toilets are lovely. You're reliant on these clubs to give you a product, and if they fail, we fail. So and I said to Danny, look, let's just go for it. We're kind of there now. We got 5,000 at Printworks. I think we'd actually agreed to the festival before we did Printworks, but that was kind of our kind of acid test. If we could pull that off, and I said, look, we've done that. Let's go for it. So we kind of just said, right, come on in. yeah, I had like, I mean, obviously you can imagine like the organisation of that is just bonkers. You know, I mean, we had probably a year and a half of hard work planning.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, we went for some massive DJs we never had. You know, we put our bollocks on the line.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, it was raining for a few days beforehand,
God,
wasn't it?
There was a monster thunderstorm. 3 days before, like the day before Ladies' Day, there was a monstrous puddle in the middle. I'm just like, oh my God. But obviously, we knew we'd sold the tickets. But we spent so much energy, money, and time. I mean, the DJs are the easy bit. I mean, anyone can book a lineup and anyone can play records, but it's the infrastructure and the experience, and that was what we worked on so hard to make the most amazing thing that people had experienced. You know, like toilets, no queues for drinks, easy to get, like with the wristbands. Yeah. We kind of, you know, we done a lot of research on how the venue works. We had 2 entrances, just things that other festivals don't have. And obviously we're very lucky because the infrastructure in Chelmsford is amazing. You've got like that lovely grandstand. Yeah. They've got blocks of toilets. I mean, we didn't have one portal at Clockstock. It was all luxury toilets. And luckily it paid off. Yeah. Because everyone walked away and said, what an amazing day, best festival I've ever been to. Yeah. I mean, we lucked out with the weather. It was like...
The weather was incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's gone bonkers. I mean, if you'd have told me 7 years ago, like when I was playing down my local wine bar to 20 people, I'd be doing parties at Printworks and Amnesia, and I would have laughed at you, you know? I know everyone goes, oh, you must be so proud. And like, yeah, I'm very proud of what we do. But it's just what we do, you know. Yeah. We love putting on parties. I love seeing people dance. I love seeing people enjoy themselves. And it's just what we're good at. You know, yeah, I do get a buzz out of it. I get a massive buzz out of it. But I get more of a buzz out of seeing people enjoy themselves and having a good time. You know, that to me is what makes it all worth it. Yeah. And reading all the lovely comments and, you know, just basically giving people an escape from their normal 9-to-5 day, you know, and come and have a good time. And, you know, that's the thing with Clockwork. Clockwork's become a community. It's so, like, so many people have met. I mean, people got married from Clockwork, you know, but they kind of, you know, our group is like 22,000 or whatever now, but everyone knows, you know, and that's what makes the atmosphere so amazing because everyone knows everyone there. They're all chatting online before, what you're wearing, where you're meeting. And in a way, they kind of build the buzz for us. Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, they are the ones that drive, you know, I mean, we have to just click a button now and go party on, and then they'll share it. Oh, have you seen they've got da-da-da? And that's what's so amazing about social media, that really everyone shares it and spreads the word. But the Clockwork group is very, you know, I mean, it's like people, this guy the other day, like, saying he's been really down because he's got mental health issues, and everyone's come out, you know, it's just kind of it's quite amazing how lovely it is. You know, there's so much like happiness and love on there. It's mental.
Yes, the best side of social media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, social media can work in 2 ways. Yeah. It can be great and it can be awful. Yeah, and we know that, you know. But I mean, from the Clockwork group, it's just so many people that help. You know, it's lovely. You know, when you read some of the things, you know, it's great.
But aside from social media, how do you think it's changed from the, like, can we call it kind of like the first Clockwork iteration and then the second Clockwork? What's the kind of major difference, do you think, between the two?
Age. The first one, I don't know. It's a very difficult one to answer because it is amazing now.
Is it more enjoyable second time around?
I don't know, I had a bloody good time back in the day. I won't lie to you. I mean, the thing is, we're businessmen now. We done a lot of stupid things back in there. We spent a lot of money, and we basically blew a lot of money on silliness, and basically we were young boys living like kings in Ibiza, you know. But Danny's right in his wrongs now. Obviously he's got a family now. He's very, very astute. He's on it. I mean, he was some of the things he literally walk in and just go, I want 10 grand and grab money, and I'm like, but we got to pay tax. Like, fuck the tax, I'll do a runner. So he used to say to me, I'm just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? It was just like shocking how he used to, like, how our business run then, but now he's bang on it. I mean, it's good now because, I mean, I've turned into the nutty one kind of thing, and Danny's the sensible one. But you know, Danny's just, like I said to you before, he's an amazing promoter. Yeah. He's a magician on them, on the social media. Yeah. He's always been bloody good at it, but he just creates magic, as we call it, you know. He really does.
And so Clockwork, you're famous for classics harking back to an era, and also like a lot of kind of modern updates of those classic tracks.
It's evolving now, Clockwork. I mean, obviously it's changing. I mean, look, the festival, you can have whatever you want there. You can have disco, old school, new, clockwork kind of music, mains. I mean, we have a bit of thing for everything, but the kind of the way that the Clockwork sound is going now is, like you say, it like, you know, at Printworks, it's kind of, we try and start old school from like sort of 2 to about 7 or 8, and then the kind of DJs like myself, Tall Paul, Seb, and the ones that play the later sets, we're kind of trying to drive like reboots, which is like what I'm making, and just kind of new mixes of old tunes, you know, just to freshen it up a bit, because you know, listen, as much as we all love old school, you can't play it all night. And the problem is, it's like when we have the beach party, we all play old school all day, but you know what it's like. The DJ that's playing 5 hours after the other one doesn't know he's played. I think one year at the beach we had Alison Limerick played about 8 times or something, you know what I mean? It's just crazy. And if I'm honest, I love new music, you know, and I love playing new music. And yeah, if they're reboots, as long as you still recognise them, it's just a beefed up mix of something that was out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you're behind some of the stuff that you're playing now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing really well lately. I mean, we've signed like 6 tracks in the last sort of 5 months, really. So it's going really. I mean, it's really kicked in again. Yeah, really kicked in.
And how do you discover like the new stuff that? Is it just, you know, you're always listening to SoundCloud, Spotify, or whatever?
I mean, I you know what
there are no record shops anymore.
No, I mean, obviously you've got your beat ports and your track sources, and I mean, what I try and do is listen just to as much music as I can, really, because you know, I was listening, I had a mix on in the car, and then by pure luck on SoundCloud it just kicked onto some other mix, and I was like, oh, what's this one? You know, Shazamming it, really, you know what I was saying, I don't want to do, but you know, that's it. You've just got to have your ears on the ground. Promos, obviously I play a lot of my own stuff that I don't give out to a lot of people, so I've kind of got some exclusive tracks that no one else has got, so I've kind of got a few weapons, as I call them, that you know, that no one else can kind of have, so it kind of keeps my set fresh. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And that leads through to Perpetual Motion, Positiva. You know, you and Julian, your producing partner, kind of take us through like how you guys met and how you started. And
so basically, I started wanting to make music. Obviously, with DJing, Clockwork was going, and I was really. I hate to say this because he's my best friend now, and he'll help it. And but like I was really into Tall Paul's. I love Tall Paul mixes. I hate saying that, Paul. And and I was like, I want to make music like this, you know what I mean? And I kind of wanted to make music, and I never really. I used to go up all because again I was working in NatWest, so I used to go in all them shops and look at like the 303s and all the different machines, and obviously I didn't have a clue how to use them. And then I think I just done a couple of sessions. I got in somehow in a studio with a couple of people. So then I was like, I just started coming up with like ideas, and I was like, well, this sounds good. And then I came up with the idea for so basically Believe in Me, which was the situation riff out of Yazoo and the vocal from Fierce Ruling Divas, Atomic Slide. Anyway, so I booked a session in Ouch Studios. Went in there, Julian was the engineer. So I've done the track, you know, this is what I want, blah, blah, blah. Got on really well with him, really, really lovely guy. So I paid for the studio for the day, basically. So we did the track. Ouch had a label, and they were like, and I was like, oh, what do you think of it? They're like, nah, not for us, and don't think it would do any good. So I was like, oh, I walked away anyway. So I think I put out some white labels. I did. I bought some white labels. Literally, it'd been out about a week, and I think it had my number on it. It had Mankey, Believe in Me, and my phone number. And I literally get a call, like, out the blue. Oh, hello. Is this Andy or Mankey? I'm like, yeah. They're like, hi, it's the Ministry of Sandy. I'm like, all right. They're like, yeah, your track. I was like, right. And they're like, yeah, we want to sign it. And I was like, you what? And literally, so it was like that. They signed it. No way. And what I done, basically, because I'm such a lovely bloke, guys, you know what I mean? But what I did, because Julian had worked bloody hard on it, I kind of rung him up and said, look, you made this track with me, you know, I know like I've bought it out, but I want you to have 50% of it. Yeah. And basically that was it. We're like, you know, we've been brothers ever since.
No way.
You know, we've had so Julian kind of so what I said, I obviously offered him half the money and said, look, you know, fair's fair. Yeah. You've done all the work. I mean, I know you're an engineer at a studio and you get paid, but I said I want you to be part of this. And obviously he was just like, wow, you know, what an amazing offer. And that was it, really. So then we started working together quite, I won't say heavily, but we went from, so Ouch, he left Ouch, and then he became an engineer at Cross Tracks, and that was where we basically all the magic kind of happened. So we had an absolutely amazing productions. We had like Paul Harris, who's Dirty Vegas. Yeah, so Paul, it was me, Julian, Theon Lucas, who was doing some really cool stuff. And I mean that times was just boom times. We made some amazing stuff in there, and then we always do like, you know, really good tunes. And then I kind of, the Cross was next door, like, so literally the studio was next door to the Cross. And I went in there one night, we were working late on a Friday, and I went, I'm going to go to the Cross for a few. Anyway, I was standing in there, and I just got this like, the DOP, it was Dance Your Socks Off, and I'm like, do you know what? And I don't know how it came about, and I was like, that would work with that little Run DMC, and I went back into the studio, I went, Joe, just had an idea. And he went, all right. He said, yeah, that sounds like that'll work. So I bought the records in the next week, and basically, I think we knocked it out in about 8 hours. It was just like, it was that quick. But the thing is, these tunes the best ones come together quickly.
Yeah.
As mad as it sounds, it's so and then literally again, we did a green 10-inch vinyl. I remember I was going skiing I went skiing with Tall Paul and all the boys and that, and we was out there. It was 98. They like rung me up and they were like, we sold like 10,000 copies. And I'm like, you what? It just went absolutely ballistic. And then literally we had a bidding war going on. We had like Positiva, London, Manifesto. Everyone was trying to sign it, offering us like their mum's false legs and everything just to sign it. Like whatever, like we could have 5 remixes. And I always wanted to go with Positiva because I'd always wanted to have a track on Positiva. And obviously I loved what they were doing. And we got, I mean, it went, I think it went to number 8 in the charts. It done bloody well. I mean, and that was the thing. I was earning money at, you know, when we were talking about Danny, and I was like, I was doing really well at it. And obviously because that kind of blew up so much, I was getting, I was doing gigs like in Tokyo and Hong Kong and like places off the back of that, so I was kind of busy. And and we kind of again, studio, we had our own studio, so we eventually we left Cross Tracks and we opened our own studio in Greenwich. But it's a similar kind of thing to what I was saying about the music, you know, with the clubs. We were making music we loved, and we were just finding that the sound was changing so much, I just couldn't put any heart into it. I just didn't enjoy it, and it was trying to copy what was big, and I was just like, nah. I can't do this no more. And Julian obviously carried on because it was his job. So he when I kind of like left, he took on the kind of he was doing a lot of remixes for like, I mean, he was doing Beyonce, Robbie Williams. He's done some like amazing work like with really mega stars. And then like, I mean, obviously me and Julian are like brothers. Like, I mean, he's a brother I haven't got. You know, I've known him since probably 96, and we argue and fight like brothers. Like, you know, we got each other's backs, and then always kept in touch, always sending me music. What do you think of this? No, not sure, don't like it. Then obviously Clockwork was reborn, and then I'm like, do you know what? Like what Danny said to me, I fancy it again, you know? So we kind of started just fiddling about and doing a few tracks, and a couple of years of just making booties and stuff that, you know, like people were, I mean, I was just playing stuff out. We would just pick an old track up and beef it up a bit, and then we kind of just started, I mean, probably not even that long ago, 2 years ago, and we done the res, we did the res cover. I played it at the first Printworks. It obviously took the roof off, and literally it was like, people want to sign it, you know. I mean, like, here we go. But anyway, so we've kind of just been working, and just literally the last year it's just literally exploded. We've signed like 3 to New State, 2 to Phonetic, and like obviously the big one is the Tool Room. The Tool Room track. So literally we're working on a track, and we had an absolute shocker. We'd been in there all day, and it was just like, this is so shit. We were like, I was like, let's just go and get something to eat. It's not working. And so we kind of went, because Julian Studio's in his house. He's got a lovely country house in near Northampton.
Right. Peacocks
in the gardens. It's the most beautifully setting you could want to make music in, you know. Yeah. And that's the thing. We vibe there. We get really, you know, it's just nice to be in a relaxing atmosphere, and it makes such a difference. I mean, I used to love working in London, but going up there, you just chill. You sit outside. You have a coffee. You know, you just take a bit of fresh air. And literally, we come back about 9. We was watching telly. I said, come on, let's just go and have one last crack at it. And literally within 2 hours, we got this just amazing kind of riff going, got a vocal on it, and I literally did an little video. It wasn't even finished. It was just being worked on. And I literally did a little video, went, yeah, sounding good. Put it on Insta. 2 hours later, Mark Knight messaged me. He goes, what's that track you're working on? And I'm like, I don't know. It's not really finished yet. So he said, send it over. So I said, all right, give me a couple of days. So I sent it. I think we were working on the Tuesday. I sent it over to him on the Wednesday night. He rings me up Thursday night and he goes, mate, that is massive. And I'm like, really? He's like, it sounds like the new Camel Fat. And I'm like, oh, shut up. And he's like, I'm telling you, he said, I've listened to it 20 times. He said, it is massive. And he said, what are your plans with it? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, I want to sign it. I was like, and it was like literally from a bloody 10-second snip on Instagram.
Wow.
And that's due out on the 28th of October. So that's, I mean, look, we don't know how it's going to go. You know, it's like anything. It's a roulette. It's a Russian roulette, innit, music, you know. But, I mean, it's an amazing track.
Yeah.
Mark's beefed it right up. He's re-edited it, and it sounds like amazing. Toolroom have had some of the massivest hits, like, you know, like Feel My Needs and all them big tunes that went to number 1 in the chart. So we're with a bloody good label. They know what they're doing. You got Mark Knight behind you, who's one of the best producers in the world. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's so different to what literally what we used to do 20 years ago is make a record, go to a Marto, press up 2,000. Sell it. If it's sold out, we'd make more, and then you might sign it. And it was literally the record shops pushing your stuff to all the DJs. Yeah. And that's the thing, because like then, you know, I'd mates in like all the shops and that, and they were like, oh mate, I'll catch you a copy of this, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. And that's the thing, because you kind of had friends that were listening to, and they knew what the good stuff was, so they give the good stuff to the right DJs, like Plastic Fantastic. That's what I'm trying to think of, like Johnny Orange and all the boys, and they literally would like that. I had a box, so anything wicked coming went in my box. So I'd rock in, and they'd be like, here you go, like, boom, like 200 records, and I'm like, bloody hell. But that was how you kind of got the good stuff, because they always looked after their regulars, and that was the thing. But now you've got to go and search, and I've put tracks on when we did a little Clockwork Orange label. I put tracks on Beatport, and you're in like basically a technological abyss, isn't you? There's no way of finding it. No. How'd you find that track? Yeah. Unless you know what it's called, or unless you've got a bookmark or whatever they called, or you're in a chart. Yeah. And that's the whole thing with electronic music now. How do people get their music out there if they haven't got a banner or something like that? It's very, very difficult to get your song. But that's why Spotify and SoundCloud and all these things are helping. I'll tell you a funny story, actually, because we've just redone a Perpetual Motion track. It was gone out on New State, and we were like, can you set up a Spotify account? We're like, there's already one set up. Some geezer's got our Perpetual Motion with a picture of him like that with gold teeth, and we're like, who the fuck is this geezer? So we've had to we've got it back now. We've claimed it back from him, but it's mad. So he'd claimed Perpetual Motion with all our tracks on it, from all our old Positiva stuff. He's on this guy, and he's like, like a proper like roadman from like Hackney or something, with all these pictures of like him all like giving it all that kind of thing with his rings on and all that. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's I mean, that's the thing. It's music is just mentally different from what it was like. Yeah. Really like promotion, because you used to have a give out flyers, post stuff, and now push a button. But that's the thing, it's very, very difficult to, because there's so much product out there. Yeah. How do you get it out there, and how do you get it heard? Yeah. You know? Awesome. And that leads through to like the tunes for our playlist that we've chosen. You've been really good at giving them us up front. Like what we do is every interviewee, we get 5 tracks, different themes, put them in a playlist. Yeah. And, you know, people can just follow it, discover it, and, you know, there's a whole host of different genres on there and stuff like that. And we always try and start with that first track that was the catalyst for getting you into dance music. Well, that you've already mentioned it. Yeah, Nitro Deluxe, basically. So, obviously went to my local shop when I used to live in Walthamstow, bought a copy, had it on a mix CD or something, bought a copy, then discovered that I could mix it with Derek B. Yeah. And that was really my kind of where I class my transition into wanting to be a DJ or experimenting with music and house music. Yeah. So for me, that was kind of the pivotal moment of when I thought, hang on, this is fun. You know is it a track that you still want to play out? Or I've got a really good mix of it, actually, that I do play. I mean, it's a couple of years old now, but it is really good. So, I do still play it. And a floor filler, an instant floor filler, you've chosen Josh Wink. Yeah, I've just gone for something that, I mean, obviously, look, I could give you 1,000 records I could play, but I've just gone for something that reminds me of the epitome of Clockwork in the late 90s. Yeah. And just seeing it just absolutely blow the place apart, you know. And I remember that year, that was just the tune. I mean, look, Clockwork was obviously, by the time that got played, Clockwork was in full flow anyway, so it wouldn't really matter when you played it. But it's just something that, you know, if you had a dance floor that wasn't really rocking, you'd put that on and the place would just go like a bloody tidal wave.
Yeah,
you know?
it's pure filth, that track. Yeah.
For me, that was the year when we were just having it off, and it was just amazing. You know, every party was absolutely heaving. Yeah, so I kind of just thought of something that reminded me of just the amazing days, and just, you know, as soon as it come on, the place just used to erupt.
A Sunsetter tune. I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff at Mambo as well.
Yeah. I've gone for the Nightmares on Wax one because it's just such a lot of beautiful.
I think Danny
song.
chose Les Nuits, the other one as
did
well.
he?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, you've gone for Night's Interlude.
Yeah. It's just like sitting there, watching the sun go down, glass of sangria, whatever.
Nothing better.
No.
A tearjerker. I mean, we asked, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be house music.
No.
So you've gone for Pink Floyd, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Yeah. Is that of a special meaning for you in any sense?
I mean, obviously, like I say, it reminds me of my dad. But like, I always remember my dad, like, always remember Dark Side of the Moon. Because he used to play the one with the clocks, and it used to shit the life out of me. Because I was only like 5, I can't remember how old I was, but I remember it used to kind of, but I just always remember my dad playing Pink Floyd, and I love that song. I've always loved that song, and we went to see Ozzy Pink Floyd. I mean, obviously you can't see Pink Floyd now, but so we went to a couple of their concerts, and I've had just nights where I could just sit there, and again, I've seen an amazing sunset that was played, and they timed it so right. So when the down, the sun dipped behind the sky, and it was like, oh my God, like goosebumps. Yeah. And I remember, like, so like me and my dad one night come back here, we'd had a few drinks, and we were just sitting here with the lights off playing that. And it just reminds me of him, and just like, I love the song, and emotional kind of. I didn't want to go. It's something that I can always hear and just stop.
Yeah,
I want to listen to this. It's 30 minutes long, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? It goes on forever, but it builds, and it's just a beautiful song.
It's a journey, isn't it? A real journey.
Yeah.
And a last tune, which will probably be, because this is the last episode in this series we're doing of the podcast. This is episode 10. We'll come back in the new year, and this will be the last tune on the whole playlist for a while. It's Frankie Knuckles, Your Love.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what? I've been playing, there's a new Kolsch mix out, but I've been playing that, which is amazing. But I've just decided to go for the original for this, because it's just an absolute weapon, isn't it? You know what I mean? Sing along.
Can't beat that. Can't beat it.
Classic.
And one kind of final question is, we are kind of house culture, and we always ask our guests, what does house culture as a whole scene, a movement, what does it mean to you? Just could you sum up what impact it's had on your life?
I mean, look, on from the Clockwork kind of, if you know, because obviously it's what I do, just like amazing nights, met amazing people, friends that have become like friends for a very long time, that I've met through basically music. Just community, isn't it, really? I mean, Clockwork is, like what I said to you, it's like a kind of, I wouldn't call it a cult. But, you know, just...
You'll wear orange.
Like-minded people basically doing what we want to do, which is go out and have a good time, listen to good music, and forget your troubles.
Perfect.
And that's it. Really.
Amazing. That is somewhere great to end on, I think. Yeah, cool. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Cool.
House culture.
Thank you, Andy. What a pleasure it was not only to sit down with you, but to do it in the comfort of your own home. Thanks for the hospitality, Mr. Manston. As you heard, Clockwork are going to continue to push the boundaries of this scene and already have a huge amount of great parties and locations lined up for the coming months. Make sure you stay tuned to all of their socials, as they have some very exciting announcements coming soon. So, in terms of those tracks we discussed, you can find them all on House Culture's Perfect playlist on Spotify. These were Andy's Catalyst, which was Let's Get Brutal by Nitro Deluxe. His absolutely filthy floor filler, that is Higher State of Consciousness by Josh Wink. His Sunsetter, which was Nightmares on Wax's Night's Interlude, fitting right alongside Danny Clockwork's choice of Les Nuits. His tearjerker was Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd. And yes, I have got and put the full 13.5-minute version on there. turn the lights low and listen to that on full blast. And his last tune was, of course, the unbeatable Your Love by Frankie Knuckles, a stone cold classic. Also, I always like to treat you guys to a few extras, so I've chucked on DOP's Here I Go from their Dance Your Socks Off EP. That's the one that Andy heard in The Cross and was inspired to sample it for his and Julian's Perpetual Motion single that got signed to Positiva. You can check out all of these tracks and more on House Culture's Perfect Playlist on Spotify. Search for it and follow it, so not only will you not miss out on the choices from our podcast guests, you'll also get a regularly updated selection of beats that cover every facet of dance music. Once again, that's House Culture, Perfect Playlist, it's on Spotify. Once you're done there, please support us by subscribing, loving, liking, tweeting, sharing, and not forgetting to leave us a review. Could always get you a mention on a future episode. So this time around, our shout out goes to Mike Jones, who got in touch via email to say he's been listening to podcasts for a few years, and now that he's discovered House Culture, he's basically binged the whole series and has loved getting the insights into our guests' lives and creative journeys. Well, Mike, thanks so much for the amazing words. We hope that the end of this first series doesn't put too much of a hole in your listening schedule. Don't panic though, so we will be back in the new year with a whole new bunch of familiar faces. And if you've got this far into the podcast and still don't know what House Culture is all about, we are a collective of house music fans who have come together through their mutual love of the beat to celebrate the spirit of house music. Hit up our Instagram feed at HouseCultureNet or follow the hashtag #TrueHouseCulture to make sure you do not miss out on what's happening in the scene or the launch of Series 2 of the House Culture podcast. And finally, you can reach out to me, Matt Rouse, directly on Instagram at DJ Matt Rouse. Thanks for listening. See you in the new year.
House Culture.